Welcome to NBNR, the authority on unfiltered opinions and authentic player insight for Nebraska athletics. Connect with us on Twitter, Instagram, and at nbnrpodcast.com.
We have the saying, no block, no rock.
You know, we just really love Utter. He's a junkyard dog.
Kenny Bell ran up to me. He's like, you know what you just did?
You get mad. When you going to get in the portal and go to another podcast?
You know, usually dumbbells are in pairs. They had 5 dumbbells.
Dang on it, Muhammad.
GBR. Go Big Red indeed. No block, no rock. Season 4, episode 26 coming at you from the Nebraska Brewing Company tap room with a slightly different look.
Slightly.
Just slightly.
Pretty big change tonight.
Sharp look. We got these black walls. You guys can see that light behind our special guest here. Look at that thing. It's not too bright for you, is it, Gary?
Oh, my God. Yeah, no, that's cool.
So let's just go around real quick, guys. Let's talk about the drinks that we are drinking. I will start with KB on the end. What you got in your cup there?
Got the EOS Hefeweizen, like always. I can't seem to move away from it, so that's what I've got. Mike, what do you got?
I am drinking the Ale Storm, and the reason I'm drinking that beer is because one of my favorite players for the Kansas City Royals, Bobby Witt Jr., just got paid. So
largest contract in Royals history.
Yes, largest contract in Royals history.
It's not even close.
11-year deal next to my favorite player of all time, Alex Gordon. So, hey, I'll take it, and I'm going to try a really good beer in the process. So,
what was it? 11-year, $289 million?
Something like
right?
that.
28.5 maybe?
Yeah, a lot of money.
A lot of money.
Yeah, he probably doesn't have to worry about that ever again.
Yeah,
So.
I think he'll be fine.
All right, let's kick it over to Mr. Gary Sadlemyer. He is the host of KFAB's Morning News with co-host Jim Lion Rose, member of the Nebraska Broadcasters Hall of Fame. No big deal.
Right.
Gary Sadlemyer, what are you drinking in your cup there?
Oh,
what do you got?
Well, since this is the largest brewery in the state, I've got Diet Coke.
Yeah, fair enough.
Hey, 2:45 comes early, you know.
I believe that.
And it's a Monday night. That's a cool place. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for showing up.
What do you have?
Well, thank you for asking.
Yeah.
I have what's called the Pickle Fight. It's on tap. A lot of people, when I say that, hey, come to the tap room, they have pickle beer. They're like, seriously? I'm like, it's tasty as a mug.
Wow.
It's one of the most popular, too.
It's beautiful.
And coming back in like a month. Like
Okay.
1 month, it is back in cans.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
It'll always be on draft, but it's
Pickle.
back in cans next month.
So I'm going to Hy-Vee to buy me a 6-pack of the Pickle Fight. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. What do you got?
You guys know what I'm drinking.
Yeah.
I've got the Pilsner.
Why
You
did
know,
I
it's
ask?
every week.
Jeez.
It is every week. I don't know why we still ask me.
I know.
I appreciate you including me.
Plug your
but-
business. Plug your business. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that all?
No,
you
that's
done?
it. Yeah,
It
no,
is.
Pilsner,
All right.
yeah.
I don't want to interrupt your Pilsner.
No. Oh, Farrell's is back in cans too, by the
Yeah,
way.
There you
that
go.
We did
beer
that.
is fantastic.
Mike and Kyle stopped back by on Friday of
Yeah.
last week for the Farrell's tapping. It was a fun time. And that's when we got to get some more work done on these walls.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Mike, are you getting any feedback from our listeners about this new look or what? Are they like, oh,
Haven't got any comments yet about the walls. What we have 14 people in here watching right now. Make sure you leave comments and questions in the chat for Mr. Gary here. And otherwise let's
let's
get
again,
to
come to the
rolling.
tap room. 108th and Harrison, Lavista, Nebraska, 68128. Connor, you're right next to me, so help me out. World class.
In every glass.
All right. Now, Gary,
Yes, sir.
we're throwing it over to you. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You were in the Nebraska football radio broadcast booth between 1980 and 1995.
Well, I was actually in the booth from 85 to 95. I was
Okay.
on the broadcast starting in 1980 doing sidelines and locker room interviews, halftime interviews, pregame, stuff like that. But game time, I didn't go upstairs till 85.
Okay. Now, 85 to 95, you were with the one and only
Kent. Yeah.
Kent Pavelka.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's kind of been he's always been a popular guy around here. Like he's always been a beloved figure. But I feel like, especially this year,
Oh yeah.
with Nebraska ball finding relative success, there's been like a renaissance of Kent Pavelka calls.
I agree.
And so, like, I'm just curious, kind of what your thought is about him, and just thinking back to working with him in the football booth, just what kind of a guy he is.
Well, he's been my closest long-term friend in Omaha from the day I moved here, and he was a KFAB when I got here, and we've just been very close all these years, and I'm so happy for him now. It's 50 years doing basketball.
He's seen
That is insane.
He's seen some ups, and
This
he's seen
is 50th
some
year.
A lot of downs. He's seen a lot of downs in basketball.
Oh man,
poor guy.
oh
50
man,
years.
and to see what's happening, I'm jacked about this team, Fred's team here. I think if they can get the Northwestern win, they got to get one on the road for sure. I think.
Yeah.
To solidify to get in.
Should have got one last night.
But I just love this team, and I think Fred, Fred in a way, I think did what Tom Osborne did in the early to mid 90s, and he realized I need to adapt a little bit here. All this stuff I did back at Iowa State and the Big Eight and all that, pardon me, doesn't seem to work that well here for the athletes I'm getting in the Big Ten conference. And so now he's playing defense. He's got shooters, using the portal smartly. I love this team, but I digress. Kent's great, and this is, I told him, we texted the other night after the Wisconsin win. I said, man, this is your time, man. This is awesome.
I think he knows it too.
Yeah.
Like every time he's calling a game.
Yeah.
And it's like, I feel like Nebraska ball, they need to just get to 20, right? Just get to 20.
Yeah.
And that road game last night, that was tough.
I think they got points for that though.
Yeah, I think
Didn't
they went up.
I hope so.
They went up 4 spots in the net rankings.
Yeah.
And he even said at the end of the Wisconsin game, if you heard the last couple seconds, after Chucky Hepburn misses the shot, but Chucky, you missed it. Like that. And he goes, and right before that, he's like, try to leave this team out. I dare you. That's basically what he said. Leave this team out. Just try it. And he knows it's right.
I know.
He can taste it.
Yeah. He's unabashedly a fan.
Yeah, it's
And,
that's why I don't care how. Listen, whenever we have, I don't think we might have argued about this.
Yeah,
but having biased radio people, it's so much more fun.
it's pretty typical for local broadcasts, and our vibe on the football. Sorry, am I ignoring you guys?
No, you're good.
I hear.
It's a conversation.
Anybody watching or listening to us right now is not here to hear us talk.
Yeah.
No, our vibe on the football broadcast was, I don't want it to be ambiguous who we're for, but I also want to respect competition.
Sure.
And tell what's happening out there, because we had some great teams and great players from opposing teams all those years, and we give them credit. I mean, but yes, when Nebraska did something well, that's the difference. And I've heard homers that don't do that, and I don't like that. But Kent, I'll never, the Big 8 years in basketball. God, Danny Nee, Norm, Larry Brown, like Danny would say, and Johnny Orr. It was just awesome. Billy Tubbs, that group, and sit down, Norm. Kent would say that on the air. It was awesome.
He still says it to coaches. Like Brad Underwood. He got after Brad Underwood last night. Okay, Brad, enough. Well, give this guy another team.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? Like
It's beautiful.
Well, Jared, remember so we were at the Purdue game. I mean, I was at the Wisconsin game the other day too, but Jared and I were at the Purdue game and we stormed the court.
Yeah, I bet you did. Yeah.
Yeah, we stormed the court, and of course we had to go stop by the scorers table and
give him a fist bump.
Give him a fist bump. So Ken is he's living it up right now with the success that we're finally seeing with Fred Hoiberg. So
that's awesome. I don't get to listen to him as much as I'd like to, because when I'm home, I'm watching him on TV. Now maybe if you guys came over, you could sync it up or read it. But he's ahead of the TV.
Yeah.
Yep.
And if he were behind the TV, I could pause the TV till he caught up, but I can't. So
I love Kent so much that
but I did hear the
put up with
Purdue.
it.
I did hear the Purdue ending. I got to hear Kent on this one.
Yeah.
That's great.
I do love, we talk about homers. In broadcasting, it's very fun. But what I think is really special to see is homers in coaching, where after the Wisconsin win, Matt Rule is waiting in the tunnel for Fred Hoiberg. That's incredible to see coaches supporting coaches and seeing what Nebraska is doing, building programs that historically, I guess football, maybe not historically, but over the last decade or so has been struggling, and seeing these guys working through these big issues and being side by side is just so phenomenal to
Yeah.
see. There's
No, it's
something
cool.
special at Nebraska right now.
Yeah, this is a great, good, and it was that way before years ago. I mean, Tom was very supportive of Mo Iba and Joe Cipriano before that. And, frankly, I wasn't in touch really during the Barry Collier years and so on. And the coach of the day in football, it's hard to keep up.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I assume they were, got along okay. But you're right. This is Matt Rule. Switching to football for just a second is, I just love his approach. I think he's genuine, and that's the key.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I don't think there's a phony bone in that guy's body.
Yeah, that guy, everything he says, he means, and
It looks like it. Yeah.
Yeah. I just hope that the on-field success can go with the way that he talks, because the guy, he could sell you anything.
I think it might. I think it might. If you look at the players percentage-wise that decided to stay compared to some other programs, there's a reason for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked a few months ago, I think, actually, with guys like Nash and Ty coming back.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are not young by any means, and they could probably go pro, but them choosing to stick around for another year, it does give us kind of that hope that these players can see it. They can see Matt Rule and the rest of the staff. There's something to them that I'm willing to stick around. I could transfer, right? I could go to a program that actually makes a bowl game.
Yeah.
Which we haven't. You know how long it's been, haven't we?
Yeah.
Do we need to say it? No, we don't. But it's like
it was in my favorite city, so it's easy for me to remember.
Nashville.
Yeah.
You miss Nashville, don't you? You want to go back?
I love
there.
Nashville.
Nashville is awesome. I was at that bowl game.
My favorite city, other than I love Omaha. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But for traveling, I mean, there's so much happening down there.
Oh yeah.
Oh sure.
Cool place.
Listen,
The Music City Bowl.
if you were to say that Omaha was your favorite city, we'd be like,
That's got
you're just now you're just pandering.
No,
Like let's
no, not at all. Look, I've been here 47 years.
Yeah.
And you're a Minnesota transplant,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. All my kids were born here, and they're all still live here. It's home.
So that
I mean, love it.
That makes me kind of wonder, because you're originally from Minnesota, like you said, Mike, and you get this job. You were working sidelines for Nebraska, whatever. Like, how do you even get that job in the first place? Like, did you want that, or how did you kind of come into that job?
I wanted to be part of it.
Yeah.
I fell in love with college football as a young kid. The University of Minnesota had, and a lot of colleges did back in the day, they'd have band day, where high school bands from all over the state in an early season, preseason, non-conference game would come down early in the morning, and you'd rehearse with the University of Minnesota marching band all morning, and then you get to play at halftime. And they put us in the South bleachers, and I saw 3 of those when I was in high school. And I just thought, God, there's nothing like this. There's nothing like this. I saw Nebraska up there in 67 or 8. Saw USC with O.J. Simpson. And just loved college football. And, of course, there was one game a week on TV. But I didn't miss it unless I was out hunting. And so I'd play football on a Friday night. Little small town. Get up early in the morning, get on the bus, and go down and do that. And then so I moved to Nebraska, Grand Island in 1973. And so here you are. You love college football, and you moved to Nebraska?
Right.
Are you kidding me?
I mean, that's
I lost
pinnacle.
my mind.
And that was Osborne's first year was 73.
Yes, it was.
So good timing.
Yeah, and I'll never forget that first football Saturday. I'd been in town a couple of months, I guess. I remember driving around that Saturday, and you could just hear the game out of every garage. You go to the store, just bang. And so I was out there 3.5 years, and I got the KFAB gig. And Lyle Bremser, and holy cow, I thought I died and gone to heaven, which I still do.
Mm-hmm.
And but anyway, I always made it known to the management, say, if there's ever an opportunity. And they decided they wanted it. Sideline reports were starting to become a little more popular or more common on local broadcasts, and our management, Lyle and Ken Hedrick, decided they wanted to expand that. And so they said, how about this? In 1980, they had me do helicopter traffic reports between Omaha and Lincoln.
So you're the Trooper Steve.
Yeah. Back of the day. So I go out to the Millard Airport in a helicopter, and we fly back and forth. And then after most of the traffic was in Lincoln, the guy would drop me at Duncan Aviation, and they'd had a car take me into the stadium, and I got a sideline pass. And I went up to the booth, checked in, got my stuff, went down to the sideline, and I do sideline reports, and then go into the locker room afterwards and do record interviews and bring the cassette. It was pretty primitive for the day. Bring the cassette back up to the booth and stuff like that. So that's how it all started, and did that. And then starting in 1983, that's the first year the university went to an exclusive rights holder. And there were 4 bidders, KFAB, WOW in Omaha, KFOR, KLIN in Lincoln. And it was very interesting. And my understanding is, I don't remember the exact numbers now, but my understanding is that KFAB blew the other 3 away. And I remember Lyle was a very smart guy, and he was the VP and general manager. He said, we're not going to bid a penny more or a penny less than it's worth. And I think the others may have tried to go cheap. The university had said, look, we got 4 booths we got to have ready every game. And, and all of their equipment and stuff. And we're not charging them anything except whatever it costs to keep the lights on. And they knew that other schools were going to exclusive broadcasts. So they decided to do that. And it was kind of sketchy, a little bit nerve-wracking at the time, because KFAB had that, WOW had that, KFOR, they'd all had it forever, and nobody wanted to lose it. But when they went competitive, Lyle said, okay, game on. And we were very successful. Got that first bid, and that's when we started doing the network, 50-some stations. And then my role, you might say, expanded.
Yeah,
a little bit, huh?
Fair to say.
Yeah, and I did that. Turned out to be Lyle's last season in the booth, Lyle Bremser. Nobody knew it at the time. He confided in Kent and Jack Payne. And then at the end of the 83 season, he announced he was retiring from the booth and turn it over to Kent. And Larry Molenbrink was doing the color, and he stayed in that role 84, and then 85 we switched roles. They wanted me up there with Kent, and Larry did sidelines. So and what a great period to be doing Husker
No
football.
kidding.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I loved it.
So
Do you want to give another shot?
Oh, I'd love it. Yeah, it was wonderful.
You want to do it again?
It was great. Oh, that ship has sailed. I mean, this is all, it's so corporate and massive and multimedia now. If iHeart could, if iHeart wanted to get in the game, they could. I think the university now has got a contract through the end of time, basically, with, is it Playfly? I think that.
Playfly is what it's called. Yeah. I'm just saying they had good times under you. I'm just just leave it on.
Hey, we already honored Frank, right? We got to right all the wrongs. So I think now the next thing is to bring back Gary, and guess what? We're going to start winning championships again.
Yeah, thank you. You know what was great about it? A lot of things were great about it. But it was like a 3.5 month period, and then life was normal again. And I know people who traveled all the time, year round for business, and they got tired of it. I never get tired of it because we had 5 road games, 6. It was awesome.
Yeah,
it was great, and I love football. So
yeah,
and I got to know everybody, and it was made some great friendships.
Out of the road games that you got to do, is there one that sticks out that there was a location that you wanted to be at?
Well, there are a few places that I got to see that I was really, really grateful for. The Orange Bowl, we did a lot of those. I mean, that was an iconic stadium.
Oh yeah.
A lot of Orange Bowl.
We're down there a lot. We're down there a lot. Almost got killed a couple times.
Oh, go on.
Oh, hey, did you ever been in that old Orange Bowl?
No.
I have
It's since torn
We haven't
down,
made an
I
Orange
guess.
Bowl in my life.
That was not in a good part of town. And there was one year, but it was never a problem. We'd always be staying at the airport Marriott or whatever. But you'd get over in that area, and the city had these you know, the size of a stop sign, but they were just solid orange with arrows on them pointing to the stadium. And I think it was the third or fourth last time we were there. One of those had turned up missing. And all of a sudden, I'm driving around, Kent, riding shotgun, two other people on our crew in the back. We got some of our equipment driving around aimlessly. And occasionally I could see the light standards above the treetops, but I couldn't get there. It was a weird. And we pulled up to this light, and I looked out Kent's window, and there was this guy walking toward us with no joy in his heart. I could tell that. He was looking at it. And I'm thinking, okay. I mean, it looked like he meant us harm.
Yeah.
So the light was still red. I went anyway. It might still be red. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it was. So we're driving around, and finally I met a cop coming, and I waved him down, and he stopped, and he said, "Just follow me." So we finally. But I mean, that was their media lot had not only a chain link fence, but like a 20-foot high chain link fence with razor wire across the top. And
Jeez.
that's a little odd. Till I came down after the game to get the van and back it up to the elevator for our equipment, you know, midnight or whatever it was. And there was a guy just stalking like a tiger outside that fence looking in. Kind of glad they got this fence.
Yeah. Suddenly the razor wire made sense, right?
That stadium, man, it was kind of a dump in a way, but man, it was the Orange Bowl.
Right.
It's a little charming.
Joe
right?
Namath and all that.
Yeah.
And but you know, the Carrier Dome, it's cool.
Yeah.
I always thought the Big 8 stadiums, a lot of them were very traditional and iconic. You know, Mizzou, that was always a good trip. Oklahoma, Colorado, even the stadium's kind of cool. The people are a-holes, but
Right.
a lot of they were. You know, well, that was in McCartney years. You know,
Yeah.
He wanted that rivalry.
Hey,
he wanted
you'd rather
it.
be dead than wear red, right?
that was brutal. Yeah, the only game I ever went to when we played out there, because I had a KFAB jacket, you know, red and white and stuff.
Mhm.
I didn't wear that out there because I had to go down to the locker room with about 5 minutes left in the game, walk through the stadium.
Yeah. No, I'm good.
Didn't do that
Yeah.
out there. No, there were people hurting people. They were throwing full cans of urine or whatever at people. Nice.
Piss bombs.
It was very nice.
Yeah.
We do
And
have
then the Rose Bowl, probably the Rose Bowl, man. I did, what did we play? UCLA twice out there when I was doing the games.
Yep. Troy Aikman.
I grew up seeing that place on TV. You know, the stuff you see on TV as a
Yeah.
kid and then you go there.
Mm-hmm.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was great.
We do have a question in the chat from our good listener Josh. He said, you know, in those golden days, do you have a favorite memory when you were covering the team?
Wow. Josh, thank
Can
you.
you pick?
Yeah, that's the point, you know. I have favorite. There was one moment that just popped into my head now that one of my favorites. I don't know if you guys remember Kenny Walker.
Yeah.
Was really stud defensive tackle, and he was deaf.
Yeah.
And they had, I don't know if it was his last senior day or whatever, but one day they honored Kenny and they instructed everybody in the state knew that the deaf clap was this.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody got quiet when he was introduced and did that. And it was very emotional. It was just
Wow. Yeah, that's cool.
cool
That is
experience.
Really cool.
Now imagine that place being dead quiet for that, and it was. And then people lost their minds. And Kenny that was a cool deal. But just so many. I'll tell you this. My favorite moment in that stadium was not a game that I broadcast. Of all time was 2008 Colorado and that Alex Henry
Oh, yeah.
field goal,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
which we thought at the time was a game winner. Turned out Sue ran over somebody and got, but
Yeah.
Coach's
for
son.
interception.
Coach's
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Cody Hawkins.
That place came off the ground.
Yeah.
There have been a few moments, but that one right there, man, I was just a fan of the stadium that day.
Yeah.
That was cool. Josh, I'll think about that a little more as we go here, but
Well,
those are two that stick out.
like you mentioned the Carrier Dome,
Yeah.
which makes
Oh,
me
man.
go back to 84,
Yep.
which that was one of those games where Nebraska goes up to Syracuse and they lose.
Yeah.
And it was one of the biggest upsets. I'm sure, like now, if that were to happen, that'd be just, okay, that's just who we are. But back then, I'm sure that was just like.
Can't have a bad feeling about that one
Did he?
before.
Let down game? Is that what he was thinking?
I don't know what. He was drinking back then, but
Yeah.
no. But Lyle said after the game, all right, you got to tell me whenever you have a bad feeling.
Seriously.
Yeah, that was one. There were 2 games in all the years I was covering him with Osborne, where his team was not prepared to do 4 quarters. That was one of them, and of course, 92 at Iowa State. And Tom said, Syracuse. I remember he said to Bob Devaney, came in the locker room afterwards. I remember hearing Tom say to him, "We just couldn't play with him." Because they had thought, I know our players went into that game thinking,
they just lost to Rutgers 19-0.
We'll wipe these guys. We'll put up 20, 21 or 31 points and take it easy. Didn't work that way. And you couldn't hear anything. You couldn't hear anything in there. When that crowd, you know how it is when a home team gets momentum.
Oh, yeah.
And that place is not big.
No.
I had an audiologist had configured an earpiece for me. I was doing sidelines then. 84, and Kent was trying to call me in. I couldn't hear him. It was horrible. Don Bryant, remember Don? Well, you guys have heard of Don Bryant.
Yeah.
I have damage to my audio nerve.
Yeah.
one of the greatest people ever, Don Bryant. But yeah, they had that great DT, Tim Green, and we had great players. I mean, don't get me wrong, but yeah, I mean, that was a year after the scoring explosion, but still.
Yeah.
And we kind of had nothing left after halftime. That was tough.
It happens.
So you mentioned that 08 Colorado game, and you said you were there as a fan that day. When you go back as a fan, how different is that, and how often are you getting recognized as you're in the stadium?
Oh, I don't know, because most people probably don't say anything. Once in a while I do.
Yeah.
It kind of catches me off guard. I'm just walking around and stupid.
As
once you talk
for the fan experience, so as you watch the game, how different is it from, spending 10 years up in the booth to now just
completely different experience. But a lot of fun. Because I have a friend whose grandfather's name is up on that North Stadium wall and has legacy season tickets.
Ooh.
And he doesn't use them very much. Greatest seats in
That's
the
a great
house.
friend to have.
Yeah.
must be nice.
Yeah. And
You got his phone number and his address?
I do. For a price, I do. And he doesn't use them much anymore. And they're great. I mean, it's like 27 rows up, West Stadium on an aisle.
Oh, nice.
48-yard line.
Oh,
come on.
Ooh.
But I see a lot of people. I run into a lot of people that I know, down there. So, but I've been in there where it's not a good experience. If you got a bad seat, and there are bad seats. I mean, let's face it.
Yeah.
But when you're doing the games, you've got everything. You've got people bringing you stuff. You got all the stats. You got the greatest view in the house, as long as you have binoculars.
Yeah.
And of course, you've been studying all week, and so it's a different experience. I'm in there now, just as a fan, loving every minute of it. I love this experience.
Yeah. I just started working for Hurrdat Sports, and so we cover the football games, and I got to go to a couple this year and cover that. And I'll tell you, like, walking into like the press box was just like a surreal moment for me, because I've been a fan my whole life.
Yeah.
Do you have any fun stories inside that press box? I mean, everybody's all hush hush, in there. Is there any like crazy things that have happened up there?
Well, they keep it pretty quiet, the press row and all that.
Yeah.
And then we were always inside the broadcast booth.
Right.
But I just love seeing the same friends every week and catching up and what's going to happen today and all of this. And again, I referenced Don Bryant. For those who don't know, Don Bryant was a longtime sports information director and a Lincoln native, a Marine Corps vet, was on the Huskers football team, I think, for a couple of years. And then the sports editor of the Lincoln paper as a young man, and then became sports information director about the time Bob Devaney arrived. And those two, it was a perfect marriage. I mean, he was a wonderful personality from the backslapper school of public relations, which was great back then. I mean, he treated the media well, and he knew that got Nebraska some favorable pub.
Yeah.
And of course, Devaney. Those two together, with Devaney's success and the rise of the program, was amazing. And Don and I became very close. He passed here, oh man, I'm thinking about 5 years ago. He did the locker room, co-host of the locker room show with me.
Okay.
With Osborne and the players. Pardon me. That was the first year of the network broadcast in '83. And so I'd go down to the field about 5 minutes left in the game. And I always knew it was time to go down when I'd look into the south end zone and I could see the sun shining on Fox's gut.
Yeah.
Have you ever been up in the, did you see the sport coat? His sport coat is framed in there.
Okay.
He had the sport coat he wore on game days, garish red tartan plaid. It was awesome.
Yeah.
That was kind of his uniform. He was a wonderful guy. But a lot of memories with him. And, he and Keith Jackson were close. And Keith would walk in. Hello, Foxy.
Yeah.
Keith, how's it going?
Yeah.
I just loved all those connections. Nothing too outlandish.
Yeah.
There was a time, I didn't see this. Fox told me about it. They called him Fox, Fat Fox.
Yeah.
That one time you had to have a press media pass to be up there. And so Don's walking around. It's like probably an hour or so before kickoff, Oklahoma game. The place is packed. And there's this guy standing there. This was the old press box, leaning up against the counter. And Don said, "Can I see your media pass?" And the guy just looks at him and starts going back to looking at the field or whatever he was doing. Don said, "Excuse me, you need a media pass." Fuck you. So Don said, I called a couple of the guys, security guys, and I got him one arm and one of them got him in the other arm. We gave him the bum's rush to the elevator and door open. We pushed him in. And he said, just before the doors closed, the guy reaches out and grabs me by the lapel. And he's trying to pull me in the elevator and the doors are
Yeah.
and I could just see that. Oh, he had some stories, man. That guy was awesome.
Yeah.
You're really gonna tell the Fat Fox, "Fuck you"?
Yeah.
Well, he didn't know. Some guy got up there somehow. Nobody knew who he was.
Yeah.
I don't know how he got in.
Nobody ever found out.
I don't know. I mean, that was back before I was doing it. I mean, that old press box was not bad, actually. I mean, this is a palace now, the new one.
Right.
Which is great. But that one, and I never saw the one before that one. They used to have basically little plywood.
Yeah. Little shack
box.
for everybody in there. Yeah.
Well, especially with the 100th anniversary of Memorial Stadium, like I had ordered something from the university, and so it was like a book, and you just see all these old pictures, and it's just like you look at it and you compare it to now, where it's like a fortress, but back then it was just like.
Well,
like
the one
you said,
before this one wasn't bad, but it got a little cramped for big games,
Mhm.
And so with the influx of a lot of money, with the sky boxes and all that is perfect. It's really good now. It's a full service multimedia place.
Yeah. Okay. We are at a good point right now just to take a quick break, refill the beers, and we will be right back.
and Diet Coke.
Yes.
And Diet Coke.
how would you say your mental focus is?
Oh, it's focused. I haven't, look.
Cash rules everything around me. Green, get the money. Dollar bill, yo. We have the saying, no block, no rock.
All right.
Thanks, Troy. Mike, towel.
All right.
Go.
Oh.
Those of you asking, this towel
Sweaty ass. It's probably all
It's-
freaking crusty now.
is contraband from the Wisconsin bench after we upset them last week.
Allegedly.
I went over to the bench and I found it and I said, well, I'm taking this for the pod. So, after celebrating on the court for the second time in less than a month, I had to go get something from this.
Yeah.
So I brought this towel for the episode.
Mike, there's a word for that, right?
What?
Stealing.
No, it's
Yeah.
contraband.
That
It
is-
sounds
yeah.
cooler.
Chucky Hepburn DNA, probably.
Yeah, the thing has Chucky's sweat on it. So
Chucky's ass.
if anybody wants to make another Chucky, it's right here.
Is that how that works? I didn't know. Yeah.
Badger tears. It is
Yeah.
filled with badger tears.
make another Chucky Hepburn that doesn't go to Nebraska.
Yeah.
But loses to Nebraska. We would be remiss. Look, we fans, Husker fans, get crap because we like to bring up the past. The 90s, you wish it was the 90s, blah, blah, blah. But you were there. And we think that Tom Osborne, despite Nick Saban, he exists, but Tom Osborne is the GOAT, the greatest of all time. I think you'd agree with that, right? Tom Osborne, the GOAT?
I don't know that there's one, but if there is, look, sports fans are obsessed with and married to statistics. Well, he can't be that great because he didn't win a Super Bowl, or he can,
Right.
So if you want to count national championship rings in Nick Saban, if you want to talk football genius, Tom, I think he was unparalleled. I saw him do things, and it was so cool, the perspective of the years I was working sidelines, to just watch him. He'd be chewing that gum and squinting, and I knew he was about 2 or 3 plays ahead of that guy across the field. And he was in his own world. And then the payoff play would work, and he just smiled a little bit to himself. It was amazing. Offensive genius. And then, as I mentioned earlier, he understood, like in '93, we're not beating these Florida teams in the Orange Bowl because of speed. That's when he revamped the defense.
Yep.
Well, that's management genius, but as a football mind, I don't think there's ever been anything like him. Amazing.
Yeah, and I guess what I kind of wanted to get at with you was, we see Matt Rule, who seems to be more than receptive, meeting with media and having cameras in the locker room, releasing those videos every once in a while. Just how was Tom in that, dealing with the media, dealing with you? How was that, talking with him on a regular basis like that?
He didn't like it very much, but it was not a personal thing. And we got along great. We're friends now, but he had the greatest sigh of all time. Well, I suppose you know more about that than I do. No, Tom, it's just a question.
Tom, come on.
Tom was telling that to you?
Yeah.
Tom was telling that to you?
Oh, he'd say, if somebody
media,
presumed, with the premise of a question annoyed him. Well, you know more about that than I do,
So kind of Bo Pelini-esque is what you're saying.
Yeah, no.
Is that what you're saying, Gary?
Oh my God. No, but it was not his favorite thing. Steve Peterson and I used to be great friends, and Steve said one time, and I think it's true, that Tom would be perfectly happy if on game day it was just the 2 teams and the officials. Because that to him was the beauty of football. Okay, did we prepare everything we did? Are we ready to do this now? But the good side of that was, I don't think Bo Schembechler liked working with the media, and he was a dick. Well, Tom wasn't.
Right.
He was just kind of, okay, here we go. My favorite line, I think, of his of all time he'd do his preseason news conference, and we'd all gather down there in August, and it was either before the 94 or 95 season or 96 maybe. So I think we have a chance to be decent. You think we have a chance to be decent?
Yeah.
This is what you're telling. This is what you're telling the American football fan. Greatest program in the country.
Uh-huh.
We not that we'll be decent or that we have a chance to be great. We have a chance to be decent.
Yeah.
It's just so understated. And then he'd drone on about each position, and then he'd say, "Well, that about do you?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have enough to write now?
But that would the media was not his favorite thing, and he was a little thin-skinned about criticism that he'd read here and there. But all in all, just a master class in football. That guy. I mean, he was it was unbelievable, and really, a good guy. Obviously, one of his secrets was not a secret really, but one of the secret sauces, I suppose you could say, to all that success was that staff. Lost very few assistant coaches.
Mm.
I mean, and the best ones stayed. That's a big deal, and it's tough that doesn't happen really anymore.
Well, shoot, when you have Charlie McBride and Milt Tenneper on the same staff for, I can't even tell you how long. It's 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, and obviously, some retired and a couple moved on, but he always had great people to replace him.
You mentioned that, he's had these assistants for 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
We don't see that much in the modern era anymore. Do you think that it's because of how the sport has changed, or was there something just so special about Tom and about what he was doing at Nebraska that nobody wanted to leave him?
Well, I think a lot of things. He didn't the money today. I mean, hey, I don't blame him.
Right.
You get one Power 5 job, you're set for life unless you're an idiot.
Right.
We'll get one contract at a Power 5. You're set. And I mean, look at Tony White.
Yep.
We may get another year, maybe two out of him, but he's going to be a head coach.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't blame him. But there's that factor. And there's also Charlie and I and Milt and I particularly got to be really good friends, and Ron Brown. And they weren't looking to become head coaches. I mean, there may have been a time early, when they were younger guys, but they loved it here. And they knew what was going on here. They loved Lincoln's a nice family town. And although Charlie got some horrible hate, death threats and all these people,
Really?
Yeah.
That's shocking.
We had Charlie on.
Coaches go through a lot of that crap. But I mean, in general, it was just he knew that he had a good situation. The money was good for the time. And he loved working with Tom. And Milt's a Nebraska guy. And he was just I loved Milt Tenneper. He was he was
pretty damn good.
We had a time or two on the road,
Yeah.
Go on.
man. I remember we were down at Sun Devil Stadium. That's another one that I enjoy. We were down playing at Arizona State. Brendan Stye was second-year guy probably, and everybody knew the talent. And so we're in we might have been in the hotel bar on Friday afternoon after we got down there.
Might have been.
Might have been.
Yeah, it's possible. And
Diet Cokes.
And Milt showing me the travel roster, and I said, Stye's not on here. No, he ain't ready. He didn't pass a written, because Milt would test him every week. You got to write down. He had a quiz for him. He ain't ready. I told him, said, you don't know which way to step. You know, good to me. You ain't traveling. Well, that was the last trip that Brendan didn't make.
Wow.
A little tough love.
Yeah.
He'll tell you that.
Yeah. Well, we're going to ask him about it for sure.
Yeah. Milt was awesome.
When you uphold that kind of standard, then you see the results that come out of that. It's like, and if you're Brendan Stye, you can't be too mad, because it's like, well, yeah, I see all these other guys before me that have.
Yeah, I asked him, because I remember what would that have been? Early 90s, probably.
Yeah.
But there was no question how good, how talented he was, and he had all the tools. But you don't know which way to step, you ain't no good to me. Well, that's true.
We had Charlie McBride on a little over a year ago, and this guy loves Nebraska and was so committed to talking with us that there was a tornado. Like he was like virtual because he lives in Michigan. And there was a tornado that was like currently hitting his area, and he lost power midway through the interview.
We could see the dark clouds outside his window.
Yeah.
And like, dude,
and this guy was like, he just kept calling us back. He's like, I just love Nebraska, and it makes my heart happy.
He was great. He will talk forever.
Yeah.
He said, you guys tired yet?
Yeah.
He's like, you tired yet?
Well, I remember he came through the locker room one day after a rare loss in Lincoln. And I'd finished up basically and said, hey, coach, got a second? We're still on the air. Yeah. And we must have stood there for 10 minutes. Just, he got philosophical about, this is what it's going to take if we're going to do that. And he's just really, really a good interview. Charlie McBride.
You want to talk about an open book?
Yeah.
That's your guy.
Yeah.
No doubt.
That dude still texts me and asks me how I'm doing.
I got to call him again. I don't know why. Does he have family up there? Or why he moved to Michigan?
Him and his wife moved up there.
Yeah.
And,
I think it's his kids.
Yeah, his kids live up there, and I think
that must be it.
He mentioned something about them having like multiple houses and stuff over there, but
yeah, because his grandkids.
All of his grandkids and stuff.
Man.
Well, Gary, if you call him,
just
make sure you clear your schedule.
Yeah.
Make sure you got enough time to just
give yourself an hour.
I know.
At least.
That was a longer episode for us, and I think all of us were like, we'll keep going.
Oh,
you want to keep talking.
The stuff he kept saying. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. He was great.
Yeah.
Well, Milt, and then we lost Milt, man, a few years ago. That was sad.
Yeah. I think just to kind of keep it pretty recent as to college football news, the Big Ten and the SEC are pretty much flipping off the NCAA, I guess, and forming advisory committees.
Yeah.
Just, I guess, to what do we do about football? Us to screw everybody else, I guess. What are your thoughts about just this kind of current landscape of college football? Do you see the positivity that can come out of this? I know you probably miss a lot of the old rivalries like we do.
Yeah, well.
But just like, what are your thoughts about the Big Ten and the SEC kind of having a monopoly on college football?
Well, it's 2 super conferences, and I don't know where it's going to end up, Jared, but I'll tell you that the NIL/transfer portal era, I was at a dinner with Trev Alberts right at the very beginning. This was, I don't know, 3 years ago. This NIL thing was just getting rolling, and he said nobody's got control of this, and he said the courts, and they're right, legally, you can't restrain trade, and all of that, and so it's just a while. He said I didn't believe him at the time, but he's obviously right. He said you're going to have high school seniors, college freshmen coming in making more money than they would in the NFL.
Yeah.
I said, well, yeah. So and this Big Ten SEC thing, I think it's natural. I don't think they want to just divorce from the NCAA, but they've obviously got the power, and the NCAA is ridiculous. They've screwed this up from the beginning. And they don't have that power anymore, So, what's Florida State going to do? There's a big time football school, and they're over there, and we're, will more expansion be coming for these 2 super conferences? I suspect it will.
You have to imagine.
Oh yeah.
And for Florida State, I just saw that their viewership is like, I think, top 5 in the country.
Yeah. Like,
you're telling me that the Big Ten don't want that, even though it's geographically doesn't make any sense at all. But it's not about.
Tell me, here's about that. Maybe you guys can explain this to me. We take Washington and Oregon, and people say, "Well, they don't want Cal and Stanford because nobody watched." Are you kidding me? We're not taking the 4th largest television market in America, San Francisco,
right?
Bay Area. There's something else going on there, it seems to me.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't want to come to the Big Ten. I think
Academics.
they probably would have. Look where they're going now, for God's sakes. I mean, that just
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense to me.
I think it's academic standards, though. So I think if you bring in Stanford, I think it raises the bar with.
Well, that should be good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That would be
I
a
would
good
think the
thing.
Big Ten would like. I don't know what's going on there. But I hear, wow, nobody watches them. What?
yeah.
Well,
But
Yeah.
I suppose that's a possibility given the payout per team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there really is like no parameter. Nobody's like explained this is why we picked these schools and didn't pick
Yeah.
these schools. Like nobody
Yeah.
really knows.
Well, the SEC hasn't really expanded coast to coast like the Big Ten's doing. The Big Ten is from
It is now.
New Jersey all the way to California now.
Well, of course, the key question in all of this is what are they going to do with that wonderful Big Ten network, panoramic?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
That's the biggest question.
That bumper
They
commercial.
got to put Washington. They got to put those 4 West Coast teams in there. Now.
Yeah, it's gonna be 10 minutes long.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's already freaking.
I love that thing.
I do too.
I just love watching it. That's brilliant.
So my thought with this advisory committee that's being formed between the Big Ten and the SEC is something that, as we started to see conference expansion a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, maybe is when talks were really getting going about Texas, Oklahoma to the SEC. What's going to happen, in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, is these two conferences are going to get so large. These advisory committees are going to become so powerful that we're just going to recreate the NCAA by
Yeah.
another name.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's just going to be essentially getting rid of this archaic system.
I suspect you're right that at some point, everybody will decide to play nice together and they'll figure out a way to keep the two entities together because, I mean, look, March Madness is a big deal. Does
Mhm.
anybody
Oh, yeah.
not love that?
Right.
I don't know anyone.
I don't think they could do that by themselves. So I don't think they want a divorce. But at some point, maybe in a couple of years, maybe less, we'll see. Okay, here's how college sports looks now.
Right.
And
I think
the NCAA
football
and
will
everybody
separate.
they'll find an easy way to explain it so everybody saves face. I'm sorry, what's that, Mike?
I said I think football will just separate. I think
That could be.
I think we'll go back to like old school rivalries and everything else in the NCAA. But I think football will be its own entity. I think it'll be like a feeder for the NFL.
Well, and that makes sense too, because like you've got basketball. How many games do they play a year? Like you have these guys playing 2 games a week.
Yeah.
You're going to be playing at UCLA, and then you're going to be
Yeah.
playing at Rutgers.
Like, dude, and you think about other sports like softball, freaking golf. Like, what are these golfers? Are they going to travel to Penn State?
Yeah.
From freaking UCLA?
No.
Right. It's
Bowling.
crazy.
But-
Baseball. Think about baseball.
I think the reason that you might not see that kind of separation with football as opposed to other sports is these athletic departments, as you get into talks about forming this, unified government that's
Yeah.
not the NCAA, but kind of is these athletic departments are going to want to have those things, kind of saddled with them because you have to have those included to get all of that viewership, all of that money. And taking your cash cows and totally separating them might leave these other sports to the side. And I don't know any reasonable athletic director that's going to want that.
Right. They got to figure out a way to pay the players.
Mm-hmm.
Other than this model to me is
It's the wild
so
west.
ripe for corruption. It's just
I mean, yeah, you see it 100%.
Yeah.
Well, and then you hear about like a few days ago, a story came out about Kellen DeBoer in Alabama tampering with a transfer. It's like, why are we still pretending there's rules? Like you act like there's a rule here,
Yeah.
but you got this other team doing God
I know.
knows what.
Yeah.
Like,
Didn't
what are we
Iowa?
still? I don't
Iowa
know.
just admitted to tampering for that.
Yeah.
defensive
And
end.
you know what it was? It was a text message after a bad Alabama game,
Yeah.
and they just said, "Keep your head up" or something like that.
Yeah.
Like just keep working, and that was
Yeah.
tampering. It's like,
Yeah.
It's kind of hoping we'd get him.
Yeah.
Oh, me too.
Well, and
That's
yeah,
Now we got
Proctor. I
Grant
think.
Brick's coming.
yeah. That's
You
we keep
parents
saying.
can't be feeling too good about that.
Oh yeah.
Drive the semi up to the high school.
Yeah, I love
Hey,
that.
Yeah.
We keep
just
saying
big.
Here's
take
the
us
thing.
back to the
I might be
era.
naive. I think Matt Rule, Trev Alberts, I think they channel Osborne in this way. They're going to play by the rules
Yeah.
here. And that has value to the right kind of kid.
Mhm.
It really does, I think. And the genuineness and sincerity that I mentioned earlier. And I'm proud of that. I think Nebraskans want that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Well, and I mean, you saw like Scott standing up there with Trev Alberts during that press conference after the whole investigation was announced, and like Trev just looked like he was dying inside.
Yeah.
So I know Trev and I would assume Matt Rule are probably just trying to avoid any issues at all costs.
Well, Scott looked like the kid going to the principal's office.
Yes.
Pouting.
Yeah.
Like, what am I doing? I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, that was a tough time, man.
Yeah, we
for
could
us
just
era.
say tough. Yeah. Leave it at that.
Yeah.
We don't need to say anything else.
Nobody wanted him to fail.
Of course
No.
You know?
Man.
And
Should have worked.
well, you know, maybe we've learned now, because Steve Peterson and Scott Frost were two guys. Everybody agreed. Got to have that. That's the guy. That's the guy.
Yeah.
He's a Nebraska
And
guy.
neither one of them were.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't know what happened. Steve and I were really close. He came up through the sports information office as a student about the time I was starting to do the broadcast, and we got to be friends. And then he, his career went up and up and up, and he came back, and he just wasn't the same.
Yeah.
So we can blame you, right?
I guess so. Yeah.
We're like, hey, Gary,
I
what do
don't
you
wanna
think about
say-
this Bill Callahan guy?
I don't
huh?
want to say anything bad about him, but it was just different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yes, people forget that Steve Peterson is a Nebraska guy. They
Yeah,
think that
North
he's just like a
Platte.
guy from Pittsburgh. No, like he's an OG Nebraska
Yeah.
there during the glory days, all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Well, like I said on the air the day that Bill Byrne announced his resignation, the nationwide search for Steve Peterson is underway. We're going to do a nationwide search. Well, everybody knew.
Right.
Steve Peterson.
It had to be Steve Peterson.
Mhm.
Yeah. Too bad that didn't work out. Could
Yeah,
have.
it sucks.
Could have.
Yeah.
And that was surprising to me. In the same way that Scott Frost was surprising to me, because they came up with it.
Yeah.
They came up with the culture, the Vanny and Osborne and all.
Right.
What the hell's the matter with you now?
Yeah.
Really?
What the hell's the
That's
matter
the
with
quote of the day, right?
Yeah.
That's right. We are clipping.
What are you doing?
What? In so many words.
Yeah.
At the
What
time.
are you doing?
Figure it out.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, guys.
Mhm.
I think you kind of touched on this a little bit. I'm just curious, Gary, with college football the way it is now, the landscape the way it is now, like what is the rivalry that you do miss most? Is it Colorado?
No,
No?
it's Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
There was nothing like that.
Sure.
That was Michigan, Ohio State. Those two, and Alabama, Auburn was a little more regional because it was within one state, and it was pure hate.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
this was amazingly good for all those years. Those two. Well, of course, you had Devaney and Fairbanks. But when those two young coaches, Osborne and Switzer, came up with these great teams through the 70s and 80s, every freaking year, it was just for a lot. It was for a lot.
Yeah.
T.O. can't win the big one.
And then, and then he finally does in 78. And then a quirk in the schedule that year, it wasn't the last game of the season. So here comes Missouri on a gray, cold day. And I was down there. My wife at the time and I went to that. And that was the longest drive from Lincoln to Omaha that evening in the history of drives from Lincoln to Omaha.
Yeah.
I bet.
And then TJ comes on KFAB and announces that they paired us with Oklahoma again in the Orange Bowl. It was brutal.
Yeah.
And Osborne, he told him, he said, this Missouri team's good. Now they're good. And they were. We'd left everything on the field in the Oklahoma win. Oklahoma should have beat us, but they didn't. But we were exhausted. And then here comes Jerry Ellis and James Wilder and all those people. I ran into Kellen Winslow. He was doing Missouri broadcasts years later.
Mm-hmm.
And we were down there, and he was looking for a little audio for his pregame and asked if he could talk to me. So and I said, you son of a bitch. I said, I'll never, ever forgive you. He laughed. He laughed.
78.
They had
Kellen.
they had some talent on that team.
Yeah.
That Mizzou team. Yeah.
And Tom knew it.
But yeah, that Nebraska, Oklahoma. Yeah, he did. The
Nebraska,
Nebraska, Oklahoma rivalry. those years. Then I'm going to move to Thanksgiving weekend, every year
Mm-hmm.
on Friday. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Nothing like it.
Yeah.
I had a lot of buffet turkey dinners in Norman, Oklahoma
Yeah, I can imagine.
over the years. Great times. Great times. And of course, the triplets years, Nebraska wins 3 in a row with Gill and Rozier and Fryer. And I love Barry Switzer too. But remember, Nebraska loved to hate him. I don't know. Do you guys remember any of that? I got to remember.
Well, Barry Switzer's one of those guys that at the time we hate him, but then he has these reunions, or he has a good relationship with T.O. So we look back fondly.
Well, he was just a character.
Switzer. Yeah, and he was a colorful character in college football.
And Nebraska fans loved to hate him because he'd say, he'd come and grin into the camera after the game. It was Sooner Magic, because they'd win a lot of them in the last minute.
Right.
Well, he wore a hat on the sidelines once when Nebraska went there. I believe he was wearing a hat that just simply said "Beat Nebraska" or something.
Yeah,
Just something simple like that.
Yeah, probably. I don't remember that specifically, but
Maybe
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah. I mean, that's just the kind of guy he was.
Yeah. Oh, hell, let's go out. Let's hang 50 on him and get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hang half 100 on him.
Well, like all the Oklahoma people that I've ever talked to too, when I went down to Norman when we played them most recently, it's like they're like, we love Nebraska. Like it was such a respected rivalry.
It was.
And like, compared to Colorado, where it's like, no, those guys are assholes.
Piss
like,
bombs,
all that stuff. No, like it was there was a respect between the two programs and the two coaches that you even still see today in 2024.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
They had they didn't want they hate Texas.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They didn't hate Nebraska.
Yeah.
But their fans, man, they'd get after you. It was great going down there. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Was it Oklahoma where I think it was, or Oklahoma State, one of the two, where Mickey Joseph
he broke his leg.
Sliced up. No, I didn't break it, but he slid into it. He slid into it. There was a metal bench. I think it was Oklahoma State, because their sidelines were so close to the field or the stadium. That was brutal.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Paul says, I remember all of those bastards. My dad throwing a beer can at the TV. That's like core memories for me.
Yeah.
It's like, my uncles and my dad like all freaking out at the TV and like throwing stuff around. Yeah.
Well, one of the things I appreciated about Tom was he was never he was always the same. Like, if the rare losses, he didn't come, and be a jerk. I mean, he'd do the interview.
Yeah.
I was trying to imagine interviewing Woody Hayes.
Right.
A guy who punches
at any
players on
time,
the
let
sideline.
alone after a loss.
Yeah.
He might strangle you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you stay in arm length.
I was watching that. I was watching that Gator Bowl that night. What?
Yeah.
Did I actually just see that?
Sorry, I'm looking at 83 when Nebraska went to Oklahoma, and Nebraska beat them.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to find this picture of Barry Switzer.
Oh.
And I know he's wearing that darn hat somewhere. So, coming to the Big Ten, I feel like, they kind of try to force, I guess, Iowa, but there's like some Wisconsin kind of rivalry because with Barry Alvarez and all that. But it's unquestionably Iowa.
It is now.
Anymore, yeah.
And I like it. Obviously, geographically, it's great. And let's be honest. A lot of these fans don't like each other.
Fuck no.
They don't like Iowa. They don't like Nebraska. They don't like the fan.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
And that adds spice.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that makes it more fun, I think.
It's the anti-Oklahoma Nebraska, where there was respect and all that.
Well,
There
that was pretty cool, though. Two big-time heavyweights.
But Iowa's never been a heavyweight, so.
No. Well, no. I mean, they haven't. Good program. Better than our program right now.
Indeed.
I think it's changing.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a hand. I don't care. You look at 9, 10, 11 wins consistently. That's pretty good.
We take that over anything right now. Yeah.
But by the same token, I can't imagine Iowa ever being in the CFP.
No.
Maybe now with 12 teams.
Yeah, with
maybe
12 teams.
Maybe with 16.
Lightning could strike. Everybody can imagine Nebraska being there.
Yeah.
Everybody's just waiting for Nebraska to come back.
Everybody's talking about the sleeping giant.
Yeah.
I think one big thing with Iowa maybe not making the CFP is they just hired Brian Ferentz. It's just a guy with the same stats in his OC career. The Iowa offense is not improving. And if you look at the Iowa-Nebraska game this year, I know we have Iowa fans that listen. They're going to talk about how they did beat us. But you beat a Nebraska team that was injury-riddled.
Yeah.
Starting QB3. And what, RB4?
Yeah.
Like, that's what Matt Rule did that with a beat-up roster.
And we should have won.
Yeah,
that's the
we
funny
should
part.
have won that game.
Well, how many? Look over the last 2 seasons, particularly. How many should we have won?
Oh,
Right.
God.
It drives me crazy. I can't believe it. The poster game for that one is at one at Michigan State.
Yeah. The botched punt.
Yeah. Let's kick it. What are you doing? I keep saying to that.
What are you doing?
I keep, see, when you get old, you talk back to the TV and the radio and stuff.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah. That was my, so we did New Year's resolutions for like Nebraska football. And my New Year's resolution this year was hopefully Nebraska football doesn't have me as like just a general fan on the couch asking them like, what are you doing? Like, that's all I want. I just don't want to be confused.
Act like you know what you're doing. And now,
I mean,
except for a couple of exceptions this past season, I'll be frank. I think if Matt Rule has a challenge, I think he needs to improve his clock management a little bit.
agreed.
And I don't know if that's maybe having one of his staff who's great at that. Just look, I need a little help with this.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Right. You're focusing on so much.
Yeah.
As a head coach, you've got all these things you're worried
There's
about.
a lot of pressure.
Yeah. You just
give me a little help with this. There's nothing wrong with asking for help.
Yeah.
Jared,
Gary, I just want to show you.
Yeah.
He's got to show.
There's
him
Barry in the
At 83.
huddle, beat Nebraska. That's just
hell. Look at that.
I'm telling you.
He's beautiful.
Can we just get NBNR hats that just say beat
crap.
Iowa?
Yeah.
Can we do that this year?
Yeah.
So I tell you what, people ask me who's your favorite interview ever. I've had a chance to meet a lot of celebrities. The best one, my most enjoyable one ever, was when I was doing the afternoon show. This was years and years ago, and Barry came out with his book, Bootlegger's Boy, and he was going around, and he came in, and I had an hour with him in the studio because I'd interviewed him for 5-10 minutes at a time over the years, pregame stuff.
Yeah.
But this was just talking about his life and the Huskers and Sooners and his background. It was great. It was great. He's a cool guy. He's a cool guy.
Again, he's just one of those guys that when he comes back for a reunion, we all love him.
It's amazing that he's alive and hasn't spent his life in prison. Did you ever read that book?
Bootlegger's Boy.
Bootlegger's Boy. Yeah, that was brutal. His upbringing. It's amazing that if he hadn't been a smart and talented football player, and he'll tell you, it was just horrible. But the positivity that guy brings to life, given that background, is amazing.
Yeah.
And man, he could recruit. Tom said, well, when you're paying players, and I didn't like that,
Yeah.
That's part of what makes you likable, is if you're willing to pay somebody. I like that guy. He gave me money.
The thing with Barry was, as he related to players, he said, don't tell me I can't give a kid a coat. He's never had one in his life, and it's 30 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could have been part of that. He dealt with it. He doesn't want other kids to have to deal with that.
That's right.
Focus on what's important.
He wasn't a saint. He and Bob Devaney and Fox got along better socially than he and Tom did. That was okay.
Well, Devaney, I'm sure, got along with a lot of people socially.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
What's your favorite Bob Devaney moment?
Oh Lord.
Off the field or on?
It does not matter. Either one. It's a podcast. It's not live radio. But what is your favorite Bob Devaney moment?
Maybe the night in Lawrence, Kansas, where he tried to hook me up with. He had one too many women.
So he tried to pawn one off on you.
Right.
Now, when you
I'll
say
probably leave it at that.
Yeah, that's understood.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because we'd always get to the road games on Friday. You go check in, and and then you might find yourself in the hotel bar
doing
our game research.
Yeah,
of course. Asking the bartender, what do you
Scouting
think about
the talent.
game? What game? Yeah, okay. Then you phone in a report. So
yeah.
So Bob was in there. Couple of young ladies.
Yeah.
Hey, Bob, how you doing? Hey, fellas. And so, and of course, everybody, small town. And Don's Steakhouse. I don't know if it's still there. Great rib joint out on the east side of Lawrence. Everybody go there. And so he, what are you doing later? I said, well, we're going to go out to Don. Well, that's where we're going. Will you have any interest in that? I said, well, let me get back. We're going to go up and change clothes. Got down to the lobby, found another guy, thank God.
Yeah.
I just gotten remarried, and I'm thinking,
Oh,
Yeah.
Bob, you're gonna
that's
screw this one up.
just what you need, right?
This is a nice young lady. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm sure she is, Bob. I'm sure she is.
Oh God,
I'm sure you're a great judge of that, aren't you, Bob?
he come. When you get to know somebody, you kind of forget sometimes that they're the big deal.
Right.
So we're down at Columbia one time, out at the restaurant Friday night, and I went into the men's room, and Bob was in there with adjacent urinals. He said, and our producer happened to come in after me, and Bob says, "Hey, can we move that interview a little bit tomorrow morning, maybe a couple of minutes later?" As we were talking about that, and we got back to the table, and Tim said, "Did I just hear you at the pisser talking to Bob Devaney about our broadcast?" I said, "Yeah." And he was just, because he didn't know him, he was like awestruck.
Yeah.
There's some funny little memories like that.
Yeah. Yeah. You and Bob Devaney just sitting at the pisser, just
Very
chatting
casually.
it up. Yeah.
To everyone else, it's like, what? But to you, it's like, yeah, we were pissing together. Like,
Yeah.
It's just what we do.
That's
like
just
we just
Yeah.
find
We're just talking
random
about the night.
women to.
So what's your hot topic on tomorrow? Because we had a pregame interview every week. There was 2 segments, 1 3.5 minutes. Another great moment was when we were out of South Carolina in '84. Yeah. Southern football is just different.
Yeah.
I mean, there's cops everywhere, and great people though. Anyway, so I'm up in the booth. Cop outside the door. Trooper. They're all troopers. The closest thing we had in the Big 8 was Mizzou. They always had cops all over the place. Anyway, so Bob and I are sitting there before we go on the air talking about this and that, and the door opens up in the upper level of the booth, and this hot woman comes running down the steps. Hi, Bob. Oh, hey, how you doing? And gives him a little peck. See you later. And away she goes. Now, she didn't have a media pass. And if I'd have been a cop, I probably wouldn't have demanded one either.
Yeah.
Yeah, your media, sure, whatever.
No
yeah.
idea. And there's a nice young lady. We're at the Giant Stadium is another one. We're at the first kickoff classic. 83. Or maybe it was the second one. Anyway, we were there 2 or 3 times. And so Kent and Jack Payne and I went over to Giant Stadium in the morning just to make sure we knew how to get there.
Sure.
And check out the stadium and stuff. No. Sorry. Got to kind of run together. This was at Syracuse. 84. We're walking around the Carrier Dome in the morning, just getting ready. And here comes Bob with his lady. Hey, fellas, this is so-and-so from the Cherry Bowl in Detroit. How do you do? And we all walked away. I said, no, she was not from the Cherry Bowl.
Yeah.
But it was just, I should stop.
Yeah.
I should stop with that. I should stop. He was just a great old Irishman.
Yeah.
Great old Irishman.
I mean, great, wonderful guy, dear friend. And he, man, he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
Sure sounds like it.
Yeah.
Dude was a winner
Well,
in multiple
yeah.
ways.
Doesn't matter if we're talking about football or
You guys familiar with the term Chinaman?
Yeah.
Okay. You know where that started?
Uh-uh.
Legend has it that in about mid-season 1962, everybody was really getting. They always had good attendance, but people were really coming out of the games big time, and especially after that win at Michigan. And Bob said to probably Fox or somebody like that, like a bunch of Chinamen. Said they all wear the same thing, and there's no end of them. And from that day to this, if you hear that reference, that's what it means. Because a lot of people, what does that mean? I'll tell you the story.
Yeah.
Very incorrect, politically incorrect. I'm sorry, America.
Yeah. No, you're good.
listen, I think a lot of our audience is
Privy to.
We've said some things on this
Yeah.
program.
Well,
Like
I've said some things.
Caitlin Clark.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway. Gary
yes,
Sadlemyer,
Jared,
thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
on the No Block No Rock podcast.
pleasure.
You're a legend. We enjoyed your
Nah,
time. Hopefully
thank
you
you.
enjoyed coming on.
I did. I love it. This is an outstanding podcast, and I know you guys have great success, continued success, for many years. Have me back in about 50 years. We'll do it again.
Yeah, you got it.
Frickin' A, man.
Yeah.
All right, guys, go to nbnrpodcast.com. We have merch, past episodes, all that stuff. We're on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, at NBNR Podcast. All the same handle. Give us a 5-star review. Give us a listen. Am I missing anything, guys?
You're
No,
good.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Gary, where can they find you?
Yeah.
Can they follow you on anything? Are you on any of the social media stuff? You an active
Yeah,
X
I'm
user?
on Facebook and Twitter. I think I screwed up. I used my own name on there.
Yeah, that's
But 11:10 KFAB every morning, 5:30 to 9 with Jim Rose. For anybody under 40, that's AM
Yeah.
amplitude modulation. And you will hear the iHeartRadio app.
download the app. It's free.
Yeah,
It's free.
it is. It is.
Gary, you mentioned there's a possibility of you starting a podcast too. A possibility?
That could happen.
Sounds like there's some pressure.
Yeah.
I can't really do it. I can't really do it while I'm working at KFAB.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you
But,
what.
in the unlikely event that I ever retire,
Yeah.
my son wants to do one, and it'd be cool working with him.
Yeah, for sure.
He's
I'll
a-
tell you, I'll be your first listener.
Yeah.
All right, man. Thanks. We'll sign you up.
Oh, Will.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's great. He's
Yeah.
he's like you guys' age, and he's good with tech, and he's a huge Big Red fan, and we'd have fun.
Lots
We
of
wouldn't
comments.
compete with you. It wouldn't be all Big Red stuff. It'd just be stuff.
Oh, I
Yeah,
don't
just
care.
stuff.
You'd blow us out of the water anyway.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
try to compete with us.
Yeah.
And you could say Chinaman as much as you want.
Right.
This is the part where we go around. We just sign off.
Yeah.
I'm one of your hosts, Jared Hall.
Mike Delaware.
Kyle Byers.
Connor Cavalack.
Gary Sadlemyer. Thank
As
you,
always,
guys. Appreciate it.
thank you. As
been an
always, beat Northwestern
Oh yeah.
and GBR.
Woo.